looking at independent practice 6-3. This is problem number 9. We have a right triangle. I know it's a right triangle because of this notation right there. And I'm asked to find x. And then I'm actually asked for a couple things. One is the exact answer, and I know this is the exact because it is a like straight equal sign. And then this, the equal sign has been squiggled, so this is going to be approximate. So this is kind of telling me right away, it's unlikely that my answer is going to be like 5 or 9. It's not going to be a whole number. It's probably going to have another one of these, like these guys are, has a square root in it. It's going to be an irrational number that I'll type into the calculator. Okay, so I know it's a right triangle, and that again is really important because that is going to tell me I can use the Pythagorean theorem. Now the Pythagorean theorem, G-O-R-E, we should be hopefully really comfortable with. At this point, that states that there's a relationship that exists among all three sides of a triangle. If you take the two legs, which are the two sides that make the right angle, and you square them, and we usually call them A and B, so I do A squared plus B squared, right? This would be A, that would be B. Usually the shorter leg is A, the longer leg is B. If I take the legs and I square them and I add them together, that is going to equal to the square of the hypotenuse. Now the hypotenuse is always the longest side. It is always opposite the right angle. So that right there would have to be my hypotenuse. That would have to be C. My hypotenuse. So I know then by looking at this that I have an A value of 5 square roots of 7. My B value is the unknown, that's the x, and then my C value, my hypotenuse, is 5 square roots of 13. So if I can see all that information, and I remember the Pythagorean theorem, I can just put the pieces in where they go and solve for x. So I'm going to do 5 square roots of 7. Now be very careful. If you're thinking of this way, 5 square roots of 7 squared, you're thinking the right thing, but it's really, really important that you put parentheses around that when you square. And I'll show you in a moment when we go to the calculator. But my a squared plus my b squared, now the b was x, so x squared equals, okay, so 5 square roots of 13 is my C. So again, I do need to square that, but again, super, super important that I put parentheses around that. So we're going to solve for x. I'm going to figure out what this number is, figure out what that number is. Arguably, you could do it without the calculator, but I would recommend using it. So let me show you what the difference is. If I do not use those parentheses, look, 5 square roots of 7. Now, the calculator does force a first set of parentheses. Whether I close them or not, you'll see that I'm going to get this number 35. Let me go ahead and do it where I don't close the parentheses. And I think it'll still give me that same 35. But that is actually not correct. That only undid this, but it never squared the 5. Because the square root of 7 squared is 7. 7 times 5 is 35. But it's got to be this whole thing squared. There should be 5 square roots of 7 times 5 square roots of 7. So you need a 5 times 5. This should be definitely bigger than 25, which this is. But let me show you here when I put parentheses around the whole thing. 5 square roots of 7. Now I'm going to close the parentheses that the calculator forced, close the parentheses that I entered, now square it, and you're going to get 175. Very different results. Those parentheses are correct. So let me do it when I don't close the second one. I'm kind of curious. If I just put 1 here, yeah, you need it all. You need every single set of parentheses. We need, I didn't write it down here, but again, the calculator is going to force 1 right there, so I need to fill 1 in, which actually means there's going to be a total of, so this is the correct line, 1, 2, 3, 4, typed into the calculator. So this one becomes 175. Let's get that down, 175. That's x squared. Now let's go back to the calculator for this guy. We're going to do our full sets of parentheses. 5 square root of 13. Close the parentheses around the 13. Close the parentheses that I introduced. Square that guy. And we get 325. All right, now I want to solve for x, so I'm going to subtract 175. Keeping my equation balanced. Keep my equal sign where it goes. I just have an x squared over here. 325 minus 175. It's going to give me 150. Now I can go to the calculator here and do the square root of 150, because that's what would undo a square, right, to do the square root. But that's going to not give me a perfect square. So now there's some work that we got to do because we want to make sure that we simplify this. I am going to do the square root on both sides. Okay? So this cancels, so I have x equals the square root of 150. Now I could go to the calculator, I kind of already did that and get my approximate answer. It's about 12.25, and right, that could go up here on this line. But the square root of 150 written as it is actually not the best simplified answer. I have to go and start thinking about my perfect squares. Perfect squares, which are the numbers created by squaring my whole numbers. So 0 times 0 is 0, 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, 25, 36. And I need to know if any of those go into 150. And hopefully you are looking at that list of perfect squares and realizing that 25 goes into 150. If you're thinking about $1.50 in quarters, you got 6 quarters in $1.50. 150 divided by 25, yeah, we got 6. So to get our best simplified answer, what I really need to do here is think of this 150 as 25 times 6. The reason that I do that is that allows me to simplify the radical. Now I can get 5 square roots of 6. And this, right here, is equal to this, and I can show you that in the calculator. But this guy is the simplified one, and that's really important. This is simplified. And it's the exact answer. All right, if I go to the calculator, I got square root of 150 here, but I'll do it again. Square root of 150, and then what did I get? 5 square roots of 6. It's the same decimal equivalent, but this is the simplified because I pulled out that perfect square. 25 was a perfect square, so that gave me a 5 as a whole number on the outside. So if I go back up here to my final answers, 5 square roots of 6 is my exact answer, 5 square roots of 6. And then I've already typed it into the calculator a couple different ways. I'm not sure the directions. Oh, the directions did say 1 decimal place. I'm just checking right here on the handout. Look, round to the tens place, 1 decimal. So we want to do about 12.2, right? That 4 is going to keep that 2 round down. So about 12.2. So that gives you your exact and your approximate answer for x here on this right triangle. Hope that's helpful. Message me anytime, and I'll see you in class.